Welcome to the Smack Happy Design Videocast, where we explore all things web and marketing. With your hosts, Nicole and Danielle.
Hi, welcome to episode number 16. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Danielle.
And I just want to remind our audience that we'll be taking some notes for you, so you can just relax and sit back and listen. And you can download the notes at smackhappy.com/videos. Today, our guest is Darius Contractor, who leads the growth process at Dropbox, is a growth hacker and seasoned entrepreneur. Welcome, Darius. Tell us a little more about yourself.
Hi, Nicole. So my background's in growth. So that's pretty much taking a website that does something and helping it do more of those things. This is popularized by Facebook. They were growing their website tremendously, and they had a bunch of growth people like myself working on optimizing the website. So that's kind of what I do all day.
Cool. I'm sure that's really important to, large companies like Dropbox and Facebook. They want to keep growing and finding new people. So it must be a very challenging role, and I can appreciate how difficult that must be for you.
It is challenging, but it's also a lot of fun. And so kind of my day-to-day usually is like come up with an experiment and then run the experiment on the website. And then we watch the numbers and see if the numbers go up or down. And we have to wait until it's statistically significant. And then if it's gone up, then we say like, yay, we figured something better out, and we release it to everyone. And so one example might be that like on our payment forms, like if the payment form doesn't clearly describe the value you're getting from Dropbox, we can change the language to show you that, hey, this is really secure, this is a lot of space. And then people are like, wow, like this is great, I really need it. And they'll sign up with a higher rate, and then they'll get more Dropbox, we'll make more money, and everything will be better. And we try it out like one version versus the other because we're never sure what's going to be better. It's kind of fun to be on the cutting edge, or at least on our on the edge of what we know for like web design.
Cool. How long do you usually have to wait to get statistical significance?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one of the challenges of the art. If it's something very high traffic, like kind of like click to upload a file that happens, millions and millions of times, that can happen as quickly as a week. But if it's something kind of deeper in the funnel that doesn't happen as often, like payment, like lots of people pay Dropbox, but it's not something you do repeatedly, of course. Like you pay and then you're done for a while. And so because it's less frequent, we have less actions. So that can take like a month. So some of these take quite a little while to run. And so some of the challenge of getting this right is picking the right ones and then having multiple running at a time and kind of keeping all the plates in the air.
Gotcha. So since you're doing all this complex stuff, I imagine you need a little work-life balance. And so today we're going to talk to you about the 4 things you do every morning to prepare your mind. So tell us a little about that. What are the 4 things that you do?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to get going in the morning and get in the right mindset. One quote I like is that it's the 1% of your day that makes the 99% of your day better. So the 4 things that I try to do each morning, and I don't do them every morning, but when I do, it feels great, is wake up, have water, have probably 2 big glasses of water, have some kind of cuddling time, or give a kiss to my wife and my child, just be close with them and remind them that I love them and hug them, go for a run or do some kind of exercise, but running is one of my favorite, and that really gets the body going, and then do some meditation. So it's water, cuddles, exercise, meditation. And so the reason for each of those things is that when you wake up, your body's often quite dehydrated. And at least I find when I get dehydrated, it's kind of like my mind that gets dehydrated first. And so I'm kind of more woozy and not as focused. But if I have 2 big glasses of water, I'm surprised how much more alert I feel. It also just gets the body going and gives you enough water that you can digest your breakfast, in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, because it digests pretty quick. And then I think the cuddles, it's really good to connect with the people you love and really start the day with connection. And really going into the day, you remind yourself and the people around you that you have this connection, and that's kind of the root of your day in some ways. And then exercise just gets you going and activated. It's fantastic that we don't have to do manual labor as jobs for most of us most of the time. And so we're just kind of like brains running around sitting at desks a lot of the time, or standing at desks. And that's great in many ways, but it means that our body isn't activated the way that it historically has been, like running around and like running away from animals, or digging for berries or whatever. It got our body going, and that was kind of a natural part of keeping our brain like healthy and aware that our body was doing stuff. And so just getting even 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I often like to go for a 15-20 minute run around my neighborhood in the morning. That gets your body going, gets the blood pumping, and makes me more alert. So that gets my energy up, but then my energy is often still pretty unfocused. So I'll be like thinking about this and thinking about that and thinking about the other thing. And so then meditation quiets my mind down again. And so then I have this like kind of like razor sharp focus that I can be quiet and then like look at one thing at a time, focus on it, do it, go on to the next thing. And then after that I can kind of plan out my day and like focus on one thing at a time and really get a lot done. Because what I find is that if I miss any one of those, I'll like miss that part of my day. I either won't be energized, I won't be focused, I won't feel connected. And so that's how I start my mornings.
Well, so for the exercise and meditation, how much time do you spend on each of those items?
So I try to spend around 20 minutes exercising, although it could even be as little as 5 or 10 minutes. Sometimes I'll just run around the block or even do some exercises in place. But a nice little run is quite nice. Like, so 20-minute run is my standard. And then meditation, just 10 minutes will actually keep me pretty focused. So that will take about half an hour to do. And then you have to throw in a shower and other stuff. And you get like maybe 1 hour, like getting up and getting your day started routine.
Mm-hmm.
So this is interesting because I feel like I do a lot of these things, but I feel like I never have any time. So I try to like combine them. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I thought of was when you were saying like, the cuddle time and the exercise time. For example, this morning, my son and I went for like a 20-minute walk. Yeah. So it's kind of like, spending the time with him and like, we're doing like exploring and things like that, like while we're walking, but we're also exercising and things like that. And I think my meditation, which I found fun as like sort of like a parallel, is not actually meditation, but I like cooking, and I feel like cooking makes me really focus, and it's making me do those things of like, a lot of people think of like, oh, time saver, I want a meal prep or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they'll have something and they'll just grab it and like it's ready to go. That's great. I don't disagree with that. But for me, I feel like actually having to like cook the thing that I'm going to eat is like making me do that extra little thing to kind of like, I don't know, focus in on it. And instead of it just being sort of like a habit, it's more like, I know that probably goes against a lot of what people think for meal prepping and stuff, but it's sort of like more of a meditation thing for me. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the day. It's time to do what I got to do.
Yeah, that can work great. One of the funny techniques that I like to use is to try to do something as slowly as possible. The surprising thing is when you try to do it slowly, you end up focusing so much on it that you only do the essential things. And even if you do it slowly, if you're only doing the essential things, the task actually goes pretty quickly. So sometimes I'll try to shower as slowly as possible, and then I often finish early.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That is funny because I mean everything's so fast paced everywhere, and I think the world expects you to be that way. So it'll be interesting to slow some things down.
But it's also fast paced with like waste. Like you end up. It's surprisingly often that you do something twice, or that you open the email, read it, and then go back and like open it again and respond. Right. If you do it slower, then you actually. One of my mentors said, "You go slow to go fast," and I think that's like a really good quote. Like for instance, planning your day. Like if you make a list of everything you need to do that day, like it's surprising how much faster your day goes than if you just started your day. There's really this like sharpening the saw that isn't in our culture. The idea that like you need to get ready for something and prep and be in a good mental place and do the right preparation is not something that our culture like prioritizes much. Another related one is when I really have my act together, I'll actually sit down, make a list of all my meetings that day and what I want to get out of each meeting. Like what topics I want to bring out, what I want to ask the other person for. And then even when I'm got back-to-back meetings, I'm kind of jumping from meeting room to meeting room and one might be late. I'll show up and I'll have this list and I'll be like, boom, boom, boom. And they're like, yes, no, yes, no. And then in like 5 minutes, we've almost finished the meeting. And it looks really pro. It feels really pro. And it, even if I'm distracted, I can actually get a lot out of my meetings in my day. And it does take me like 20 minutes, half an hour to like think through all those meetings, but it means that I just bang out the meetings when I get there and I look really pro. So that can be like a really good investment of time too.
Yeah, I like that a lot. This week and next week for me in particular are just packed full of meetings. And I always like to have some time in between because I have to mentally prepare. But if I tried your technique because I do have like, I plan out my day and I've got like everything,
Mm-hmm.
If I start, putting the pieces next to it, like you just suggested, that might also make mine go faster. So I'm gonna have to try that. I really like that idea. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just was like, this is sort of like a really deeper question, that point that you made, Therese. Do you share your questions or your thoughts or the things that you want to get done with the person that you're meeting with beforehand? Or is this just something that's like for you? It's not really an agenda in like the, I guess, typical sense of an agenda, but it's more like your goals. Is that?
Yeah. And so very often I will share them.
Okay.
If it's like a larger meeting and there isn't really a forum to share it, I'll just have notes myself and show up. Or if they're private notes, for instance, if I'm having a tough conversation with someone and I want to talk them through it and I don't necessarily want to send that beforehand, I'll keep it private. But most of the time I do try to share it. So a number of my meetings will be one-on-ones, and in the one-on-ones, I'll just have like a rolling doc where at the top of the doc, it'll just have like the next meeting. And sometimes it'll literally call next time. And I'll have a running agenda that I'll fill out even during the week. Like a thought will come up like, oh, I should talk to Nicole about that. And so I'll go to Nicole in my one-on-one doc. And at the top, I'll put next time and put that item in. And sometimes we use paper to do those one-on-one docs because that's something we built at Dropbox, and it's a great like online doc tool. And then later, Nicole will get a notification that I've edited that doc, which we share, and she could even respond to that doc, and we could take care of it in the doc sometimes. Or it can be something that would be a good conversation we bring up when we meet. But adding all that information to the one-on-one doc, either throughout the week as you think about it, or that morning, can be really valuable. And then if there is a meeting that you have where you don't have anything in the doc, that's also an opportunity to cancel the meeting. Sometimes it's good just to connect with people, but if you really have nothing to talk about, it's something you should consider doing. And then in larger meetings, I do really try to have an agenda. So I'll put that in the calendar entry, or if it's a big agenda, I might make a doc and put the link to the doc in the calendar entry. That also encourages other people to add to the doc and the agenda because it's a separate doc that's easily editable. And that helps keep like larger meetings on track. Most people are pretty good about going through the agenda and like sticking to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So I love that cuddles are a part of your morning routine. I don't remember where I heard this, but I'm gonna have to try to look this up to include in the notes or something. But someone once told me, or I read somewhere, that if you hug for like a couple minutes in the morning, it's like good for your heart or your cholesterol or your blood pressure or something. It like makes you healthier. Have you ever heard anything like that?
Well, I definitely heard that like having like hanging out with a puppy or an animal, for elderly people makes them happier, and sick
Mm-hmm.
people, and probably normal, healthy young people as well. Yeah, I think we all need love and connection, and having some kind of reminder of that is really valuable. And some of the stuff you can even just do mentally, like if you just remind yourself of what's good in your life or what connection you have, that can have some of the same effects as like doing a physical act. And that can be more efficient. And you can also bring it up anytime. Like you can have a bad moment halfway through the day and then like bring up these personal reminders.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just like text a loved one, which I think a lot of people do. They'll just like text their bae throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes I'll randomly text my husband, "I love you." And so he started doing that to me too randomly.
Yeah.
And I love it because when I see that, I just get like the warm fuzzies all over. It's like a shot of, what is that? The good hormone, like when you're
Oxytocin?
like,
Oxytocin? Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. So you might have just heard a ding. I tried to turn off all my notifications to focus on this, but my wife just texted me. She texted me that she finished her meditation for the morning. And so we do that when we meditate. We'll actually text each other, so like kind of as a check-in that we meditated that day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's really good. I think both of us have better days when we meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll also put out a call for like I use Calm, the Calm app to meditate, which is also my friend's company that I invested in. It's a great app. It's like the #1 app in the App Store. It's really great that meditation is actually the #1 app. Really, really gives me hope in like our crazy era that people are like getting some help.
That has been on my list to try that. I have a really hard time just like stopping everything and just not thinking and being with myself. So I'm getting there. That's on my list.
Yeah, I think it's really powerful because, I mean, meditation gives you the ability to like take things, like put things down in your brain. Like if you were walking around your house trying to get things done and you had like a kid in one arm and like a package that you got from the front door in the other arm, it'd be hard to get much done because your hands are full, right? You could probably do a few things, but it'd be very awkward. And that's kind of how our minds are most of the time. Like we're holding on to a bunch of different things that we're like, oh, I need to like keep this in my mind right now. And we think that if we put the package down, we'll like lose it forever. But luckily, like our minds aren't like a, ship in a storm. Like if you put the package down, it'll actually be right there when you need it. And your subconscious will actually bring it back to you right when you need it the most. So clearing out your mind can be really valuable.
Yeah, that's so true.
Especially for like the 15th time that you've lost your keys that week. Eventually you'll find them.
This is true. Although even meditating on a regular basis like my wife and I do, the only solution we found for that is just have a regular place for the keys.
Yeah, yes.
Like if we put something where it's not supposed to go, we never find it.
Very true. Because then you have the little hands, the sticky fingers too, that take them everywhere.
We don't have that problem yet, but yeah, I could see that being like an interesting challenge. We have just a very little guy. Just today, actually, his teeth started erupting.
Oh.
He's getting his first tooth. He like bit my finger, and I could feel it a little bit.
Oh, he is a little guy. Well,
yeah.
Now he's a big guy. Now he has teeth.
Yeah, he's like 6.5 months. So he's going to start biting stuff more. Pretty excited.
Watch out.
Dude, I'm just glad he's not mobile yet. Or I'm not glad. I want him to be mobile, but it's like all my friends are like, once he starts crawling.
Yeah. So you also mentioned like days when you do your routine versus days when you don't. Can you tell us a little more about how much of an effect it has?
Yeah, the biggest effect is on my afternoons. So my mornings I can often stay focused and like feel good and like blah blah blah. Especially if I have a little coffee, I'll be like, I'm a super person. But then, after lunch we all have the kind of like slow times. And actually this plays into another thing is that I try to have another like big bottle of 1 liter of water in the morning and another 1 liter in the like early afternoon, like 2 to 4 p.m. If I don't do those things and I don't meditate and I don't exercise, often my afternoons are really lethargic. And like I'll just slow down about 3 o'clock and I just won't get as much done between 3 and 6 as I did between 9 and noon, which is most of us. Like your afternoons are going to be a little slower, but oftentimes it's a lot slower, and then that makes a real difference in my productivity. Like there really is an interesting way in which your productivity is a function of your least productive times, because everyone's getting stuff done between like 9 and 11 a.m. Like there's very few people who are like sitting there like staring off into space or like tired at like 10 a.m. And if you do, you got some bigger problems. But but the real trick, I think, is like having productive afternoons, having somewhat productive, efficient evenings. Like if you just think of them in terms of raw hours, the highest multiple of unoptimized a number of hours is usually people's evenings. Because it's just a lot of hours. You might get home at 7 and go to bed at 11, that's like 4 hours. That's half your day when you're at work, And so like, if you use that efficiently, you've just increased your work day or productive day by 50%, that's tremendous. And I'm not saying you have to work all night, but at least like somewhat efficiently spending the time with like people you love and things around the house versus like, 2-hour Netflix special every night. So anyways, and being in a good mental place helps you do that. The other thing that's related to it, I guess, is I think it's really interesting. And Naval, this guy on Twitter, Naval, he also runs AngelList. He's just a brilliant guy and very sweet. One of the things that he says that I really resonate with is people ask like, how much TV do you watch, or what do you do to chill out? And he's like, instead of doing things to chill out and watching TV, I try not to get agitated in the first place, which I think is like a super pro move. I think so many people, like, the tough things in their life are the result of the strategies they have for coping with the stress in their life. A lot of times the bad stuff isn't that bad and you just go home and be chill. But if you're exhausted and you're like, I need my Netflix and I need my Haagen-Dazs and I need my, like, glass of wine, then guess what? You're going to like have more weight and be more tired. And then you want to go to the gym to work off the weight. And guess what? You're exhausted from the gym. Like, if you just weren't so stressed in the first place, you wouldn't have to do these things, which then require other things, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this kind of chilling out and like being in a good place can really like suck a lot of the distraction out of your life in general.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great advice.
The other thing that I think is interesting is that it's interesting to think about like what your job is. And depending on your job, you being focused could be incredibly important or like minorly important. So I think if you're a leader or if you're someone who like talks with people all day, being in a good mental state can be very valuable. Like if you just sound like you know what you're doing, you sound solid, you have good feedback, you handle tough situations in healthy ways, that can really invigorate the people around you and help you get more done, and is really worth the investment of a healthy morning. If you're just kind of showing up and like randomly doing this, that, the other thing and bouncing around, maybe it's less valuable to, get in a fantastic mental state. Like if you're a cook at a restaurant, maybe being in a really optimal state is not as valuable as just showing up to work half an hour earlier. It depends on the work you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I also think if you're like a highly creative person, it can be good to be in a very clean mental state for your creative work. And like structure that into your day versus your like less creative work, which everyone has both, right? So that you can like really be in the best place for that work.
Mm-hmm.
Part of this just comes down to like, thinking about your mind is more than just like a random tool that's helping you getting stuff done, but something that really needs to be like optimized and healthy. Like, just like you're going to like clean your kitchen before you start cooking a big meal, you need to kind of clean out your mind before you start doing a big task. Like you can't make Thanksgiving dinner if there's like, mail on the stove. You have to get the mail off the stove before you start cooking.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Unless it's like a flammable mail, unless someone mailed you a turkey, in which case the mail should be on the stove.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for those of you who are listening, if you've got some other interesting things that you do in your morning routine, please feel free to reach out to us and we can add them to the notes for people to try out. So I have one fun question for you, Darius. What inspires you the most?
I think the thing that inspires me the most is just looking around and seeing like how much is possible these days and in this world. Like, we're recording a video relatively easily. Like it used to be that we'd have to be in the same room. You have to get a really expensive camera and it'd be just like really hard to record this video, right? And you need like a super special laptop that was big enough for it and like a hard, all this stuff. And now we're just like, I hit the record button, And you do have Zoom, which is a great technology, which I'm an investor in as well. And so thanks for using it. But so much stuff is so much easier today. And then seeing people succeed with these like easier tools is just really exciting. And that inspires me, like if you think about how much the world is changing and then how long our lives are, like a lot changes in one lifetime now, like if you think about our grandparents, they grew up in a world where you couldn't really buy a plane ticket. And now we can like take a plane ticket for like a month, like just for fun. And just thinking about what the world's going to be like another 30 years is crazy to think about. Mm-hmm. So then I think about that and I'm like, hey, like right now, like of all the change that's going to happen next 30 years, 3% of that maybe is going to happen this year. And for all the changes that's going to happen this year, there's only 250 working days in a year. And so 0.5% of the change for the year is going to happen today. Like, and so I kind of remind the people I work with, I'm like, yeah, if you want something this year, you better do 0.5% of what you want this year today because you're eating it up.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Also could create a little bit of pressure.
Or a fire under your ass to like actually get it done.
Yeah. Maybe that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, yeah, it's a little fire. Like if you want to make 100K in a year, you better make $500 today because there's only 250 working days in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly there are some things that build on each other. Sometimes they start slow and they accelerate, and that's fine too. But you'd have to make 5% of the, or 0.5% of the progress per day. Anyways, so that possibility and that potential and that like reality of the moment really gets me going. So sometimes I read like stories of other people and like what they've done, and that gets me psyched. One thing that I like to do actually when I'm running, it's great to like listen to things when you're running, or you can take the time to think about something important. But I have this app called Blinkist. It's like Blink IST. And what they do is they do kind of book summaries. And so you can like listen to a book or the summary of a book in, I don't know, about 10 minutes. And that's a really fun way to just get the top points. It's almost like reading like the table of contents, to be honest, of a book very quickly and get some of the core ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to do that, and that kind of inspires me as well. It kind of gives me some of these ideas that people are using today.
That's cool.
I could have really used that when I was reading Cliff Notes in middle school to try to get some work done for a book I was supposed to have read.
Yeah, it's like that. Because I know that I'm not going to read all these books. And there are some of these books where you read the Cliff Notes and you're like, man, I really want to read the book. Like these Cliff Notes are like cool, but like there's got to be more to it.
Yeah. I think we'll gather a list of all of the apps you've mentioned and some of the places you've invested in, and we'll include that with our show notes so people can check these things out. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know that you are an investor in some startups, so could you tell us a little about what you're looking for there? And
yeah, so I like to invest in like SaaS startups. That SaaS stands for software as a service. So this would be like an online website where you log into the website. The website helps you with something. It's pretty much like a piece of software, and you use it as a website service, and you probably pay like monthly or yearly, and it helps you get your job done. So Dropbox is a great example of that. People have files that they want to keep in the cloud. They pay Dropbox $10 a month or $100 a year or more, and Dropbox safely keeps your files and makes them accessible, shareable, all these things. And so that's a great example of software as a service. It's a piece of software that you're buying as a service in the cloud. So I like to invest in those kind of technologies. So I'd invite your audience, if you have new pieces of SaaS software that you use, just think you're like, oh, I started using this. This is really cool. Maybe send them to me. I like to be, connected to the pulse of what people are doing and what they're getting excited about. And you just email those to me. We'll put my email address in the notes, I guess.
Awesome. Great. So we'll include your email address as well to share with everyone. Thank you to our audience for joining this Mac Happy videocast. We aim to help elevate your business through real life experience and advice.
Until next time, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Smack Happy Design videocast. For more information and downloads, visit smackhappy.com/videocast, where you'll find more episodes and the opportunity to subscribe on YouTube or iTunes. You can also sign up for our newsletter delivered to your inbox monthly. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues. Again, that's smackhappy.com/videocast. See you next time.